Welcome, everyone, to the Conversion Chemistry Effect podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about why we sabotage ourselves and what to do about it. We're going to make this a two-part episode because it's kind of some heavy thinking, and it would be really good if you took what you learned from this first episode, wrote down some notes, figure out what you want to do about it, and then move into the next episode and see how that can help you as well. I want to start by saying, to everyone here, how have you sabotaged yourself in the past, and why do you think you did that? So, Frank, I'm gonna start with you.
Oh, that's easy. I mean, if you don't process your issues from childhood, you carry them over into adulthood, and if you feel like a clumsy doofus who never really got anywhere in life, you may carry that over into adulthood, even as you are outrageously and outlandishly successful in whatever career or business you choose.
So confidence and belief in yourself are a huge portion of making sure that you are allowing yourself to be successful. Sometimes we have to prove that to ourselves to overwrite, that narrative that we've gotten from other parts of our lives. How have you been able to change that narrative in your mind from where you were to where you are today? Because you definitely come off as very confident and comfortable with your skill set now.
Oh, well, thanks, Hannah. And right back at you. I just think personal growth and working hard at it and books, here it is. This book, I'm going to get this real quick. What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. For most people, this book will change your internal dialogue in a way that up until now may have been fleeting and elusive. But this book, I read it once. I got to go back and I had all these pages folded and everything. The book was first published in, let's see here, 1982. It's relevant. It's as relevant 42 years later as it is back then. Because what happens is we tend to talk to, I tell people, I say, listen, you better make peace with yourself because you're the only person that's going to listen to what you have to say and think 24/7, 365. And if you're not at peace with yourself or you don't know how to love yourself, you're screwed. Nobody else is going to, and you're only going to be able to get things so far. And for a lot of these rock stars and stuff like that, even some actors and actresses, what happens is they peak, they don't like themselves, they don't love themselves. So what happens is they turn to drugs, affairs, alcohol, bad behavior, whatever, because even though they've made it, quote unquote, they still don't like themselves. And so if you don't like yourself, what are you going to do? Boost yourself up, or are you going to sabotage yourself? I think the answer is pretty clear, Hannah.
I really like that one. You brought up that book, and I'd want to drop that in the comments when we post this and leave a link somewhere to it, because that's actually following the concept of cognitive behavioral therapy. And it is very true that the way that we speak to ourselves is the way that we think about ourselves, and it speaks in our actions and everything that we do. So Jonesy, I want to dive right in here just because I think that Frank did a really good job of describing what happens when you aren't on your own side, and what happens, when you down talk yourself and you don't believe that you can be successful. And so you steal that from yourself. What is your version of success? Like, if you could wake up one day and everything in your life is exactly what you want it to be, what does that success look like for you?
So it comes down to purpose, and I can invoke Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization, and self-actualization for me would be having purpose. I haven't been bored in a long time, which is something I used to be. I kind of, through some CBT and a lot of personal development, I flipped on this switch of perpetual curiosity. So if all of my problems are solved, that's success. Meaning, and I'm not talking about like insane FU wealth, but I don't have to worry about money because money is a tool that just, gets me what I need to get through a day, to provide shelter for myself, my wife, enough, the dogs, enough money to have fun and entertain, and then not worry about it forever. So that's what success is for me. Having fun while getting there, enjoying what I do to get there. It's really, there's no pinnacle to it. Success to me is not a pinnacle. Um, it's basically it's something that evolves. And when I hit a certain level of achievement, then it just creates a pathway for me to experiment and try something new.
So I love the way that you said that, because a big part of it, like saying that this is a process and that this is, a daily sort of work thing, what you're changing it to is from, I'm going to get this house, I'm going to get this money, then I'm going to go on vacation and everything's going to be happily ever after. No, you're saying, I want to be curious every day and I want my needs to be met and I want to, have an opportunity to be happy. And I love that concept because instead of giving us an end all be all spot to end up at, you're giving yourself daily direction for what you want to do and where you want to go with that. We had spoken prior to this episode about how some kinds of visualization about our future, when we think of, oh, if I won the lottery, or if my business took off and I made so much money, I would have all these wonderful cars and houses and all these things. That's actually a demotivator. And so when we pin our beliefs of success onto kind of very tangible but limited concepts, and then we think about that, we spark all these feelings in our body that we should get from actually accomplishing tasks, but we're just dreaming of it. And so your alternative version of success, which is, I want to be like this every day, is, I think, so much better. It doesn't take away from your ability to be motivated, and it gives you a direction of what you want to do. I do want to ask you for an example. What is something that you do in your work life and your business that reflects being curious, wanting to be okay, and making sure that you can have fun in your life?
Well, I mean, look, the entire idea of conversion chemistry is just that. It's an amalgamation of uh, solutions to problems I've already solved, and then getting that giddy feeling of sharing it with somebody else, so that way they don't have to go through the struggle, thus allowing them to succeed and carve out other pathways that didn't exist because we've now removed hurdles. Those hurdles don't exist. They get to go and create something. So yeah, from a selfishness standpoint, that's the part of my job, and it makes me feel good to see other people succeeding. So I think it's a lie if you say you help other people selflessly. Even though I'm giving more than I take, what I get back is, yay, that makes me feel good that somebody else is succeeding.
Yeah, that's
So that,
awesome. So Frank, before we, go any further, I want to hear, one, what does success look like for you? And two, when is a time where you didn't have that concept in your head of what you wanted to be or what you wanted your daily life to look like, and you just got stuck doing something that wasn't what you wanted?
Okay, great questions. Well, the first one would be, what would it look like to me? Uh, all my bills paid, and I mean everything from the house to my kids' education, with enough money to donate to the charities and philanthropic organizations that I like. I don't need a 747 to park in my backyard or anything like that. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm a pickup truck guy. So whatever Dodge Ram is going for like 60 or 70 grand, that's good enough for me. I don't need a Maserati or Lamborghini. And I want to help people. I want to do stuff that matters instead of just like assembly work or working in a factory. I want to do something where I can share what I know and what I've gone through and help other people. I would like enough time to, develop deep, meaningful relationships that I take deep, meaningful relationships that I have and take them to the next level, and also connect with some more people because I love people. So that would be success for me. Second thing is, when I got out of high school in 1982, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My parents were like, Frankie, we love you, man, but if you're going to college, you're paying for it. So I was like, oh, snap. I guess I'm working for a while. And I went from a stock boy to a delivery van driver to a parts manager and assistant parts manager for a few Dodge dealerships. Started driving a regular truck, like a, kind of like a Budweiser, like a beer. Well, you should know, Jonesy, the beer distributor trucks that come around and all. Um, and then I drove tractor trailer, and then I got my logistics management degree. It probably wasn't up until then that I don't think I still knew in my early 30s what I wanted to do. I always thought I would be a truck driver or a train engineer. Those are my two goals, one or the other, and I went the truck driver route. And it was fine. It was fun. And to this day, I still honestly miss driving a tractor trailer. I still keep my CDL current. I've got a doubles endorsement. It means I can pull 2 trailers. I got tanker, hazmat, this and that. But I didn't like working for other people. So that's when I knew there was another option. There was something bigger than working for the man. And I just started thinking about how could I work for myself. And that to me is where the light bulb switched on. Probably 32, back it out 30 years. So what was I, 27, 28 even, was when all this started happening for me in my head. And, if I went full time 30 years ago, that would be 1994. So 28 would be 1996. It's a long time. And how I've kept myself motivated since then. Some years more than ever, and some years I've been more productive and more honest about what it takes to not only make it in business, but to continually be able to enjoy the fruits, perks, and freedoms and privileges that come with it. But, what I learned is personal growth and particularly self-talk. Boy, that self-talk stuff, Hannah. Because you know what? Back then, if somebody else would have said half of the things to my face that I said to myself, I would have punched them in the throat. How dare you say that about me? How dare you think that about me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you think about me? And meanwhile, you say it to yourself, it's like, oh, man, that's okay. Yeah. Now, that stupid voice is nothing. And it has no power. And it has no reason to exist. It has no power other than the power that you choose to give it. Period. Underscore. Exclamation mark.
I love that. So absolutely figuring out what it is that we really want in our life. And I like that. I don't know if you two noted what you said about what you're looking for in your daily life to see success, but Jonesy, you essentially said that you want security, curiosity, and fun. And Frank, you said you want security, community, and I have commitment here. I think that I agree with both of those. I actually might combine them to myself. For myself, I started my business because I realized that, there were people asking me and there were skills that were interesting to me. I don't like to do the same thing every day. I do like to do things that are different. I have to be excited to be engaged, and I want to be engaged in my work. And I also wanted to see my cat more. I only have 20 years with the illustrious Marvin. We've already spent 2 of them together, and I can't imagine that I wouldn't spend as much time with him as I could. And it's also incredibly important to me to be there for my community and have time for them. So working for myself allots me the time to choose when I can go and do that. So I'm not taking away from them because I'm stuck at a desk job somewhere or stuck in a warehouse. I do want to move on to a next concept, and I'm just going to provide a little bridge here. We were talking about a concept called the celery test. It's an idea brought about by Simon Sinek in his book. I think it's called Finding Your Why, but everyone knows it. And just a brief overview, the celery test is essentially your business has goals. Your business has a mission statement and you have a value proposition. Everything that you do needs to reflect that. That goes, back to, brand consistency. But in this case, this is all about conceptual brand consistency. I say I'm here to reduce stress for business owners, and I want all of my job to be interesting and something that I want to be engaged with and learn. Well, every new job that I take, every, contract that I sign should reflect those values. And so, the example is if you're a wellness company and you go to the grocery store and you buy Reese's cups, anyone can see that Reese's cups don't match with what your business is. But if you buy celery and you're a wellness company, it does. So I'm just going to use that as the bridge because I wanted to go um, over that again. So what I want to talk about next is decision making and inefficiency. A large portion of our decision making is how does this fit in with my business? Or rather, it should be. You should always be asking yourself the question, does this match what it is that I'm doing? However, what we were talking about before was not necessarily just our business, but what we want in our lives. So if our business is supposed to facilitate that success, then it should be facilitating those goals. So if my goals are to be curious and to be secure, then every decision that I make should move towards that. Frank, when you make an important decision today, what is the process that you use? Does it involve some version of the celery test? Do you think about how it's going to impact the things in your life that you want to do every day?
For me, I think the main thing is twofold. One, is it does it fit me? In other words, doing the next right thing. Is it the right thing to do? Is it ethical? Is it honest? Am I making sure that I don't hurt anybody or anything? Do no harm. Does it feel good? Like at night, can I go to sleep knowing that I made this decision? And the other thing is my kids. What would my kids think? Would they be proud of their dad? That would be it. Now, from a business standpoint, you know, every business I have a partner. I've got you guys here in conversion chemistry. I've got you, Jonesy, and George, in fireyourboss.win. And I've got myself and my partner Matthew in your land for sale superstore.com, where I buy and sell raw land, vacant parcels of land. I have to make decisions in those instances, obviously ethical, and at the same time, once in a while, what's good for me is not the same as what's good for the business. So there's a decision to be made there. Hey, I'm in a marriage here. I'm in a partnership. I'm in a relationship with people I trust. There's no contracts or anything written in stone or blood here. So how do my ethics and the decisions I make affect the entire business? As an entrepreneur, it can be hard at times to have a partner because, hey, screw it. It's sunny. I feel like going for a bike ride. Now I have to be here today to do X, Y, and Z. I worked Labor Day. I don't want to work Labor Day, but I had like 6 hours of work in the real estate business, had to get done. I've got a partner, that I split everything with. I'll take another day off, things like that. So that's I hope that all makes sense, but that's basically my decision-making process.
It does. It does. And I found myself a handful of times making choices that are not going to help my business, but are going to help me personally. And I have found that making sure that I am okay and making sure that I feel like I've met my familial or community obligations is just as important as making money. I might make a choice for myself in a day where I'm going to make zero amount of money, but I'm going to get so many feel good emotions from it and chemicals in my brain. And I'm also going to be accomplishing something that's one of my core goals. That I do that instead of making money. Earlier this week, I spent all of Monday and Tuesday cleaning my grandmother's house because she is a hoarder. Secretly cleaning her house and throwing things out the window so she wouldn't
Not a
see
secret
them.
anymore.
Well, she doesn't know how to use the internet, so that's fine. As long
we
as
can
we're
fix
not
that, right, Jonesy?
Right.
as long as we're not on MeTV, she's not gonna see this.
Well, I have news for you, Hannah. Now we're conversion chemistry effect is now being syndicated on every platform.
Yes,
everywhere.
we're just gonna include it in every single MASH episode. Just product placement, right? Yeah.
Hey, it fits.
But I knew that 2 days was a lot. And the one of the businesses that I work with is kind of, they're like, crap, I need you. I'm like, yeah, but my family needs me. And that has to be important. And I still, interacted with the business and did what I could, but I set them up ahead of time to be okay. but I didn't make money for 2 whole days because I knew that I needed to be a good granddaughter and daughter. And that made me feel more energized. It made me feel like a better person. And it's accomplishing one of my personal goals, which is the whole purpose of having a business in the first place, is to be okay so that I can have the rest of my life and be happy. Um, I do want to kind of move on a little bit from this, but first, just Jonesy, what is a decision that you make sometimes when you're going between, really good work decisions and really good life decisions? What would be the decider for you in a case where you have to pick one or the other to kind of make a little bit of a sacrifice?
It was learning how to identify the impact of each decision and the consequence on the other. If we're talking about choosing two paths, personal life versus business, what is it? What is this going to cost me now? What is it going to cost me in the long run? And which one has the better return on decision, the better rod?
Oh, I like that. I'm
The
writing that
better
down.
rod. Yeah.
Okay. I
Instead
want
of
to call it
Roy, it's
something
Rod.
else.
Yeah. We can new acronym. I love it. What's the number? We make like 30,000 decisions in a day between what we're going to wear, how long we wash our hands, all this stuff. The suds, the seemingly unimportant decisions.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm a systems guy. I always try to put the unimportant and low impact ones on autopilot, which, usually there's a manual process that is now automated in my head. We're talking in my head. You know, and automating and putting as much on autopilot as I can, filling up the electric kettle the night before, so that way my coffee is ready 30 seconds earlier than if I had to make it from scratch.
Oh, but that 30 seconds is great.
In the morning specifically, and
I
then
do that with my vitamins. I get all my vitamins ready the night before.
A little
so I don't waste 30
preparedness
seconds.
Takes decisions out, because otherwise
Yeah.
we have finite capacity for that decision making, and emotional, physical factors play into that. And you don't want to make penny wise and dollar dumb decisions and waste all that bandwidth early on or on the unimportant stuff. I want the decisions I have to put the effort into to be the dollar wise ones, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely. And I think a large portion of that is just setting yourself up for success. I love the metaphor of, putting the water in the pot the night before, because then it's done. Maybe the night before you're about to go to bed, it's really not that big of a deal. But when you first wake up in the morning, you're buzzing with questions about what are all the different things I'm going to do today. And that is definitely something that I do for myself to limit the amount of choices that I have to make during a time where my brain is really active and involved in work. I think that is a great way to reduce the amount of decisions that you have. And I also think recognizing which, activities or tasks that I'm doing make me so exhausted that it takes away from the other high value tasks that I can do, that I want to say no to. And I've gotten to a point where there's just kind of a handful of things that I don't do. I won't do that. And when I'm asked to do those things, no, someone else is going to do it. That's it. Because this is something that is really easy for someone else, but it takes away from me. And so recognizing that the cost of energy, like you said, that the financial cost or the penny cost, is just as important, because it's going to take away from my efficacy over time.
Yeah. And I found that, it's habit forming. Some of these revelations we find out through trial, error, and experience. And then when you come across a related scenario, you can kind of put it in that box of take care of now, take care of later. But some of it comes from frustration of experience, I found.
If anyone isn't familiar with that concept, it's, I guess you would call it a matrix. It's urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And if you really are struggling you're kind of like blinded with stress, there's too many things going on, you take your list of things and you put them in those categories. And if something does not need to be done today, and it's not super important, then put it in that box and leave it alone until you actually have time for that. A lot of times actually visualizing what my tasks are going to look like on a whiteboard allows me to get things done, and it lets me sort them out and prioritize without going nuts. Frank, that would be really useful for you. That's something that we've talked about a lot before, where, you've got 60 leads and, 3 people who need contracts, and you got to go take a picture of this thing and you got to send this document. Well, take a step back and think which one of these is really urgent and really important. And then you do that one. And now your brain doesn't have to think about or make a decision about 70 tasks. You just have to make a decision about maybe 3.
That's very true, because when everything is important and urgent, none of it is.
Yes. And it's, people will get caught up in trying to figure out what they're going to do next. And instead of making a decision, they'll just say that. They'll say, well, it's all important. No, it isn't. That's nonsense. You need to eat. You need to drink water. You need to breathe air. If you have something that's going to make you money in your business today, do that thing and then deal with the other things. But that takes a lot of practice. And over time, it gets easier. And like Jonesy said, you build a habit, and then you no longer have this decision fatigue happening at you all the time. You're in control of that situation. I want to move on a little bit. So we have the power of sticking with your decisions. Now, I'm very new. I haven't really had to stick with any particular decision since I started in January. I will say there are, a few companies that I've decided I really want to work with. There are companies I've decided I absolutely will not work with. But I do think that you both having more experience in business over time would speak better to what is the value of, once you've decided something, staying with that decision.
I think it's like the 3 feet from gold phenomenon, where, as entrepreneurs or somebody like myself who's perpetually curious, likes to try a lot of different stuff, the first failure may want to have you give up and try something else, which is a perfectly reasonable feeling to have. But, as cases have shown us, very famous cases, in fact, that the first failure is not indicative of final success. Now, say what you will about J.K. Rowling and her, viewpoints, on certain people. We can't underplay her success with the Harry Potter franchise. And for anybody who didn't know, she quite famously was rejected by multiple publishers for years before the book series was picked up, and she became a bajillionaire with the book series and the movies. Anyway, from her craft and her vision and her mission, she stuck to her guns and didn't give up after the first failure, and kept pushing and trying different publishers, and eventually found the right publisher who was the right fit for the book series, the Harry Potter series.
Yeah, okay. So I definitely agree that, all of our successes in life, no matter what it is that we're doing, are always going to be try, fail, try, fail, try, fail, try, succeed. I'm going to ding a really happy story for me and Jonesy that happened, quite recently. I run an ice hockey team called the Cuttlefish, and our first season, we lost 12 games out of 12 games. Our second season, we lost 12 games out of 12 games. It's been since 2022. We have 3 seasons a year. And this past season, we won the championship in our league. Yep. Yes. And this was because on this team, we have a couple of rules. The first rule is don't be a dick. That's always the rule around me. So if you are a dick around me, I will tell you. And then you will stop. We also have a rule that says, if somebody wants feedback, you can give it to them, but otherwise don't. And we have a rule that we're there to have fun and just try our hardest. So that's literally 4 values that we have kept to in every single one of our games. And so we lost together over and over and over again. And we still came back smiling, happy, excited, ready to be there for a game. And imagine doing that 24 times in a row. Usually you would see like the losing racehorse get sad and they're unhappy and they're depressed. Not my team, because every single team we noted, or every single game that we played, we went, instead of saying, oh, we lost and that's terrible, we said, but so-and-so did a better job with this particular skill set this time. Or I can see that this person over here is having a stronger stride in their skating and they're moving a little bit faster. We're playing better together, noticing your little bits of success as you move along. is going to keep you motivated long enough to stick with that belief set. In our case, it was, we can be a happy team that are not jerks and we can win. It's just going to take some time. And we proved that. I have seen people who lose their way because even though, they started out with this great mission statement, they wanted to, do something a certain kind of way, and then they get shiny object syndrome, or they get discouraged very easily and they go, oh, well, I've been doing this for 2 weeks and it didn't work out. So, I paid all this money for these ads and, I'm just going to scrap it. It's not going to work. Well, if you give something 2 weeks of a chance, I mean, you can imagine if you're learning a new skill, you're not going to learn it in 2 weeks. Things aren't going to work out magically. That. Yes, you're welcome. And then they move on to the next thing. So at first, when I was, looking at the concept of sticking with our decisions, I do think that there are times when we need to reevaluate and go back to the drawing board. However, if you're just constantly switching up what you're doing and you're never focused on one particular thing, you aren't going to get there. You're just not going to get there. So sticking with what you've decided you want and believing in the process and understanding that sometimes things take time and practice and failure and doing better, it allows you to, like you said, get to the point where your book gets published or winning a championship.
I could never understand that. I tell people, listen, you want to learn this business, right? You went to how many years of public schooling? 12? Okay. Plus kindergarten even. So there's 13. Now you go get a college degree. You spend your first 2 years getting your associates, which most of the time you barely know what your major is, and you wind up changing it anyway. Now you're at 15 years. So now you get your bachelor's. You got 17 years of education. And what? Go get some stupid job at a company that could downsize and lay you off and eliminate you and play politics. So you do that for 17 years. But you won't do this internet stuff for a year or two, and you won't engage in a little bit of personal growth? Are you freaking kidding me? You're worth so much more than that, and yet you give all this stuff away freely to everybody else, but you won't invest a year or two in yourself? That's nuts, Hannah. That's insane.
I love that comparison because that's a lot of time that we spend doing something that we're not really sure why we're. Now, granted, school is very important and it's good. College, I think it depends on who you are at this point in our lives. There's so many other resources that we can learn from that we don't have to go to a 4-year institution to relearn American history for the 50th time and pay a lot to do it. But we spend all this time educating ourselves in our lives, and then we get to doing something that we're a little bit scared and we're not quite sure, and we don't exactly know what the future is going to be, and we just give up. Jonesy, you look like you want to say something.
I'm just listening, and it just, kind of reminds me of some past clients who, you talked about advertising, trying one particular advertising channel for 2 weeks, and it didn't lead to direct sales. Therefore, it's worthless, and we need to get rid of that and try something else. Mm-hmm. Yes, marketing is scientific in that we do try things and eliminate. But Thomas Edison went through 10,000 iterations of the light bulb before he found the successful one. And each one, and he made corrections along the way because it was applied scientifically. And he didn't give up right away. Nor did he, each one of those paths he went on to create that bulb. It's not like he started from zero every time.
Okay.
Went here. All right, that didn't work, but this part of it did. So now we're going to go this way. And, creating this infinite amount of possibilities I should say finite amount of possibilities till we found the correct one.
I absolutely love that because reflection is so important in moving forward, and it guides our decisions. And if we don't go back and figure out what worked, what didn't, what am I happy with, what do I want to take with me, or what do I want to try again? Because it failed here, but I think it could be successful if I, tweaked it a little bit. When we do that reflection, that's where we're able to come up with long-term solutions and be successful, because we've learned how to be successful and how not to be successful. I want to talk a little bit before we end about how do we deal with our short-term decision making versus our long-term decision making. And I think, that could be something as simple as, well, if I do this job today, I'll make a couple $100, but if I do this job today, I'll make, $50, but 6 months from now, I'll make, thousands. How has being too focused on short-term gains versus, long-term building up your skill set and your company affected you guys? And do you have times where you have to choose the short-term success over the long-term success? Frank, you first.
Well, I'd say yes. Sometimes you do, because you do have to pay your bills. You have to eat today. You have to make sure your kids have clothes today. But at the same point, I'll read something that's taped to my desk here. I wish I could lift up my entire desk and prove to you that's taped here. It says, most people fail to control themselves and wind up with regrets. We trade minutes of pleasure, i.e. fast food, snooze buttons, alcohol, etc., for days, months, and years of pain. Plan ahead for this weekend. Overcome your obstacles. Identify what really matters and eliminate the temptations that will get in your way. And I think that live today stuff is great. But, the older generation, save something for a rainy day and this and that. You can have a good balance in that. And here's another one right here, guys. I have this one right next to me. Hold on. At some point, Jonesy, can you read that?
At some point, you got to be real with yourself about the gap between the life you want to live and the life your daily habits are leading you towards.
Ooh.
And then I have just to do the next right thing, but that's taped to the side of my computer, so I'm not even trying to hold that up. But things like that, man, I have them right in front of me, so I'm aware. Just do the next right thing. I love pizza. I think, Jonesy, you know this. When I'm eating this slice of pizza, I'm thinking about, when am I going to get my next pie? What other day this week can I get a pizza? Well, gee, what's that doing to me? Weight-wise, health-wise, cholesterol-wise, artery-wise? You got to make a choice. That's just minutes of pleasure here versus walk around Mr. Fatty over there. And not biologically that, but just because I have no self-control. Go ahead, Anna, let it out.
No, I'm holding it in. It's fine. No, I like that metaphor. I like that explanation of, how a short-term choice is going to not serve you in the long term. I think some of the more obvious ones in my business are things like, I should always, on a regular basis, be doing things to drum up more business in the future or make myself be known. Right. Jonesy does a fantastic job of this. He goes to, lots of different networking groups and talks to people. And he's always got, a card and explaining how can conversion chemistry or a marketing company near you or T-Bone Jones Solutions help you with what you're working on. And he's always ready to have that conversation. It's so important. And while you're not getting paid to go to a networking meeting, or you're not getting paid to, make a phone call or send an email on your own behalf, taking that time out of your day in the short term, you're not going to get paid for it. In the long term, you're going to have a lot more business to choose from, and you're going to have options. And so we have to always balance that, the difference between, okay, well, how much money, how much work, how much task-oriented work or currently contracted work do I need to do right now to make sure that all of my bills are paid and I'm setting that, basic level of security for myself, versus what do I need to do to ensure that I have that security in the future? I think a lot of people think about concepts like that as if they're auxiliary, they're unnecessary, they're extra, there's something that you do when you have time. No, there's something that you need to make time for on a regular basis, because if you don't make the time now, then in the long term, you're not going to be doing anything. And it's so incredibly important. I think we're just about ready to wrap up. I just wanted to see if either of you had any more comments on what we've been talking about today.
Yeah, so actually, I think I'll sign off with saying, and you can find a way to creatively make those activities that you don't necessarily want to do fit into your vision and values and desires, right? Like we'll use networking as the example. Yeah, it's a duty, duty. It's a task.
You said duty.
Sure did. And you're all laughing, you immature children.
No, you're boys. I'm laughing at you for being boys.
Oh, okay, that's it, huh? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's saying. Okay. We believe you, my darling. We
I'm the
believe you.
mature one.
At that part, I believe.
Yes, that is true. But you still laughed, so it's only by degrees, not by miles.
I lost my train of thought, but I guess I'll say invoking a paradigm shift to make those tasks that I don't necessarily want to do fit into my vision, whether at the present or that I'm setting up future Jonesy to be satisfied with that decision. And that's very important to me.
Yeah, actually, that's a way that I think about that a lot. So you know how oftentimes people will in the moment choose not to do the dishes and then the next day they're like, damn, you passed me. Well, past me is actually great with work stuff. I had the last job that I had before I moved into business. I would find almost every single day I would go to do a task. And now this is me forgetting that I've done tasks, so that maybe that's not great. But I would go, okay, I have to do X, Y, and Z. But before that, I have to do a few steps. And I would go, look, and past me already did it. Past me is on top of her shit. She knows what she's doing. Future me, I don't know about her. Current time me, I don't know about her. But I somehow there's a version of me that's just doing a ton of work that I find out in the future about, and then I don't have to do it because she already did. I love her.
What a great person.
I know.
Yes,
Past me is
yeah.
the best. Frank, do you have any other comments that you want to make in relation to decision making and staying true to our success stories and what we want?
I think the thing is to be real and to sit quietly until the answers come to. That's something else in today's society. Like Jonesy said, we make like 30,000 decisions a day, and you have all this stuff thrown at you, and all this work, and all this entertainment, and all this thing, that, and the other thing. No, you have to sit quietly for at least a few minutes a day and say, what am I doing here? What do I want? What? Because today was yesterday's tomorrow. You know what I mean? And where you are today is because of what you did yesterday. That's why you're here right now. It's because of what you did yesterday and blah, blah, blah. Day before, day before, day before. So if you don't want something, if you want something in the future or you don't want something to happen in the future, the only time to fix that is the present, because the present moment is all we have.
I'm going to take a really specific line away from what you just said, and I like it a lot. What do I have to do? Where do I have to be tomorrow in order to be where I want to be in the future? And what can I do today to help tomorrow me get there?
I mean, I don't have any guarantees, but the plan is I go to bed tonight. I wake up, it's Saturday morning. I know what I have to do. Go to my mom's house in New Jersey, visit her, do some cleaning, blah, blah, blah. 84-year-old widow who I love dearly.
We're all really nice people.
If I don't make sure. What's that?
I said, we're all really nice people. Are we just all out here helping our moms?
Yeah,
it's the
Catholic guilt and the 8%.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I got Catholic guilt and I found out I'm 8% Jewish, and I got Jewish guilt and Catholic guilt. So I feel doubly guilty at any given moment. I got to go see my mom. I love her. She's the best. Yes. And I'll do something fun afterwards.
On that note, we want to encourage all of our conversion chemistry people to take care of the older folks in their life, apparently, is what we're doing today.
That's right.
And so thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your wisdom and your experience on this episode. The next portion of why we sabotage ourselves and what we're going to do about it in the next episode is going to be all about mindset. It's going to be all about how can we get our brains into a pathway where we're going to be the most successful and give ourselves the best chance to do what we want to do. Jonesy, take it away.
Yeah, so I thank you for spearheading this episode. Thank you both for participating. This personal development aspect of our content here is really is equally as important as all the marketing and sales techniques and strategy we talk about. Because if we're not up to par physically and emotionally, we can't be successful.
I agree.
Reckon.
Amen.
Eh.